So you're thinking about looking at Eagle, Idaho and seeing if it's the right place for you and your family to call your next home. Well, in this video today, I'm going to share with you some of the pros and the cons of living in Eagle, Idaho. My family and I, we are local here to the Eagle, Idaho area, and I want you to see everything that's really good about living here, but also some of the negatives, because at the end of the day, we have to deal with both when you live here. What's up guys, I'm Chase Dolan, your Boise realtor, and like I said in this video, we're going to be talking all about Eagle, Idaho. I'm going to list out some of my favorite things about living here, but we're also going to talk about some of the negative things that I don't actually love about Eagle. But at the end of the day, it's all up to you and your pros and cons list, which one weighs out more. That's where you're going to slot in every city that you're looking at. And to get started, one of the big reasons we fell in love with Eagle out of all of the towns here around Boise is that Eagle is a smaller town, but it is not the smallest rural small town. With a population of around 30,000 people, it's not going to be anywhere near the big cities of Boise, Meridian, Nampa, over 100,000 people, but it's going to be bigger than total small town Idaho when we're looking at Middleton, for example. When my wife and I were deciding where we wanted to live, we didn't want to live in a big city where we were going to be battling traffic. We were going to feel that hustle and bustle, the stress of living in a city with a ton of people. But we also had no interest being super away from everything, only having one or two restaurants. We like the nice amenities. We want the big city amenities without having to be in the big city. And to us, Eagle struck the perfect balance of these. Living in Eagle, you're going to have access to the Boise River. You're going to have access to a lot of the outdoors. There's going to be some great parks, Reed Merrill, Stephen Gruber, all throughout. You're going to have Ada Eagle Bike Park if you like to do more of the BMX dirt biking side. And when we talk about restaurants, we're just seeing more and more come, but they're always more locally focused or small brands that you haven't heard of everywhere. We aren't going to be a city that's going to have all of the chain restaurants popping up. If you're in town for a weekend, a couple of our favorites are going to be Coins right down by Reed Merrill Park. And we've also really liked Spitfire Tacos and Tequila. They have some great breakfast burritos, but their tacos are absolutely to die for. So Eagle has a lot of these things that we would be looking for. There's easy access to healthcare. There's going to be easy access to things like Target, to Costco, Kohl's. All of that's going to be in North Meridian, just a few minutes away from Eagle. But the town itself is still small enough. There are some great events that happen year round with Eagle Fun Days. There's going to be a harvest festival. The main street in downtown of Eagle is so cute. It is a great place to go out on a Saturday, Sunday morning, enjoy, take a walk around. And like I've said in some of my past videos, one of my favorite things to do on the weekends during the summer is hitting up some of the local farmers markets. And Eagle itself, the Eagle Saturday Market, is one of the best in the entire valley. So whether you're coming from a really large city and that's not what you're looking for, but maybe you're not ready to jump straight into, hey, there's only about 5,000 people that live in my city. I have one breakfast option, two lunch dinner options, and one grocery store. I am going to see people that I know every single time I go out of my house. If that's sounding way too small for you, then Eagle might be that nice balance. And the exact same thing on the flip side. If you're coming from a small rural town, but you want more access to things, you want easy access to healthcare, but being in a really large city stresses you out, Eagle, again, is going to be a nice balance to get just a little bit closer, but you're not going to be overwhelmed. Now, even as I talk about all of those positives, all of the amenities, the things that are available and such, one of my biggest gripes with Eagle right now is if you live over in the northwestern edge of Eagle, you are almost in this little bit of a desert right now when it comes to grocery stores. Eagle itself is only going to have an Albertsons in downtown Eagle. Outside of that, you are going to be going to Northwest Meridian. Our main grocery store is going to be the Fred Meyer right off Chinden and Linder in Orchard Park. Now, this is only about 10 to 15 minutes from us, but every once in a while when we just need to grab one ingredient, maybe we want to go out during intermission of a hockey game, it can be really frustrating once you start to see and you're like, okay, this is going to be a 30 to 40 minute trip just purely because I don't have somewhere to run right down the road. I do not think it'll be this way for very long because so much of the new development and the population is kind of going right there between Star and Eagle. You're gonna end up having more services, a grocery store, that sort of stuff pop up over the next few years. But as somebody who lives out there right now, It is just one of those things that's a slight annoyance that we would 100% change if we could. And before we get into the next thing about Eagle, Idaho, I just want to remind you I am a local agent up here in the area. So if you have any questions at all about Eagle, moving here, living here, whatever it is, all of my information is down below. Call, text, email, whatever works best for you. I would absolutely love to chat. And if you're liking the video or you're learning something, hit that subscribe button down below. That way you are the first to know everything you need to know about living around the Boise, Idaho area. But let's get back in and let's talk about the biggest con when it comes to Eagle, Idaho, and one that you may have already been thinking about. We're going to talk about the housing prices. So Eagle, Idaho is going to be the most expensive suburb by a pretty large margin in our entire Treasure Valley. As of filming this, the median home price is just around $850,000 to $860,000, which is absolutely nuts when we're in a town where the median home price is just in that $500,000 to $550,000. It can be a little bit of a shock to the system once you're starting to look out here and you see how expensive some things in Eagle can be. But as we're going to share in this video, there are some reasons for that. It really is a great place to live with a lot of the amenities, a lot of that small town feel. And when we're talking about the median home price, I am not trying to say that Eagle is extremely affordable, but one reason why it is so high is some of our high-end multi-million dollar homes on the Boise River, on acreage, kind of exists down here in Eagle. So whenever you have these large neighborhoods that are in the $3 to $4 million range, that is going to bring it up a little bit. But again, I am not saying that Eagle is going to be the most affordable. A starter level home in Eagle is going to run you around that $500,000 to $550,000. Whereas if you go into Boise, you go into Meridian, you're going to be closer to that $400,000 to $450,000. And for those same homes, if you head out towards Nampa and Caldwell, you can get your budget all the way down to around $350,000. So hopefully it's obvious, but it really depends on where you're at in your journey. And when you're making that pros and cons list, figuring out if the budget and what you're gonna have to pay for a home is worth it in your eyes or if it's not. Now, one of those amenities that people do love about living in Eagle is Eagle here, we're gonna be in the West Ada school district, but the public school system in Eagle itself has always exceeded people's expectations. And it is an area that I have clients all the time talk about how much they love sending their kids to these schools. They send them to another really good school in the area, but they are looking at sending their kids to Eagle High School eventually. They just have a really good reputation and people like sending their kids there, which at the end of the day, that is the best way to judge a school. Now, my typical disclaimer, when it comes to schools and really choosing what's best for you and your kids, do some of your own research. There are some great websites out there that talk about all of the schooling options available, because at the end of the day, what you think makes a good school, what I think, what our neighbor thinks, they're all gonna be pretty different. And we all know those rankings on a website, they can only take into account so much. While we're on the train of thought of thinking about schools and kids and your family, I do want to point out that one of the pros of living here in Eagle is it is one of the safest places to live in the entire Treasure Valley. We are really lucky up here in the Boise, Idaho area that pretty much everywhere is a safe place to live relative to some of the other places around our country. But even when adjusting for those Idaho standard kind of crime rates, Eagle is still a very safe place to live. I can tell you as somebody who's lived in quite a few places around our country, Eagle is not a place that I have ever felt uncomfortable, unsafe. I've never been worried about my family. I've never been worried about our belongings. It really is just a great place to live. So I could not recommend it more for you and your family. Even with that being said, a couple of the cons that I want to touch on have to do with how fast our city is growing. And this is not unique to just Eagle. It is happening all over the Treasure Valley. But here in Eagle itself, we are seeing an explosion in the population and in the housing realms, which by itself, I do not have a huge problem with. But our city and the planning and all of the infrastructure behind it, it was not planned well and was not ready for this growth at all. Something you'll hear me talk about a lot if you watch some of my videos is here in the area with our population basically doubling, this rears its head in things like having those day-to-day necessities, the grocery stores that I was talking about. It comes up when we're talking about roads and how to get people in and out of town. Right now, there is some crazy construction going on in downtown Eagle, which just makes everybody's commutes 10 minutes longer. And then when we touch on things like the wages available here in Eagle, the housing prices have completely just jumped like crazy. But we've seen the wages here in all of Idaho, but even in Eagle, stay completely stagnant. The minimum wage here is still $7.25, but our city is working on it. They have a plan. They are trying to recoup and kind of catch up with this growth. It's something that I wish we weren't behind the 8 ball a little bit, but over the next few years, I do think it's gonna get a little bit better. Now, the con that I wanna pull out of that and really emphasize is the traffic here in Eagle has been an
absolute nightmare.
And saying an absolute nightmare, that might be a little bit of an overreaction. But when you run into traffic in Eagle, you're not gonna see it every single day. You're gonna be able to get to a lot of places that you need without really feeling any of the congestion. But here in Eagle, what I've noticed is when you do run into it, it is insane. When you're coming from Meridian and you're having to cross from Chinden to State Street, whether you use an Eagle Road or you're using Linder, it can take 15 to 20 minutes to get through those areas because Linder is a 2-lane road, so there's just not a lot of room for a ton of cars to go. And then Eagle, even though it is a large road, that construction that I'm talking about in downtown Eagle, it is pushing that back and closing those lanes. So we're seeing rush hour here just become an absolute nightmare. And again, it is important to remember that our standards for traffic here in the Idaho area are very, very different than some of the bigger cities around. So you're probably gonna run up here, you're gonna see the traffic and you're just gonna laugh to yourself like this is nothing. But for somebody that's lived in Idaho for over a decade now, it really does feel like a lot. Let's hop back over to the positive side, and I want to talk about one of the best parts about living in Eagle. It is going to be your access to outdoor recreation and all of the activities, the nature, the things that really draw people to Idaho. It allows you to get out and experience them so much easier than some of the other towns. Starting off with stuff that is in town itself, we're gonna have a state park, Eagle Island State Park, which is located right here in Northwest Eagle. This is gonna be a state park that has everything from a water slide, it'll turn into a tubing hill in the winter, you can go horseback riding, you can take your dog, you can bring the kids and have them go play, there's walking paths, you can go for a bike ride. There is so much to do in Eagle Island State Park, and it is right there off of State Street. And I will be completely honest, we love it there. And it is something we just forget to use because it is almost so convenient. And then coming all the way throughout most of Eagle, you're gonna have the Boise River. So one of the big pros about living in our valley at all is the way that the Boise River runs directly through downtown Boise. It'll shoot its way all the way up through Eagle, Star, out to Middleton. And for the majority of it kind of ending out in Star, you're gonna have the Boise Greenbelt running right alongside it. So this means if you wanna head out and you wanna go fishing, let's say that you wanna go out for a long run, maybe you want to go for a 20-mile bike ride. That is located just a short drive and a quick stroll from your parking lot to get to the Greenbelt itself. You're also going to have in Eagle, Ada Eagle Bike Park, which I mentioned kind of at the beginning of the video, but it's going to have a big dog park, it's going to have a skate park, basketball courts. But what it's really known for is it has this massive trail system and this big dirt course for anybody that wants to go out, get on the dirt bikes, you might want to get on the BMX track. That is your spot to go, and it is just something so unique, and it checks off that box for a different sort of outdoor activity. But I could go on and on about all of the outdoor stuff in Eagle itself, but one of the biggest things that I love about living here is because of where we're located on the northern edge of our valley, you are cutting off 20 to 30 to sometimes 40 minutes on your commute up to some of the mountain towns. So if you want to get up to Tamarack or Brundage in the winter to go skiing or snowboarding, you're already a little bit closer than everybody else. You want to go rafting, go up to Banks Loman and get on the river, you're already closer. You want to go hunting, you want to go out camping, whatever it is, living here compared to living in Meridian where we came from, it is crazy what an extra 20 to 30 minutes cut off of your commute does for your energy and just your willingness to go and escape to the outdoors. If you're here for just a weekend, a couple of spots that I really recommend that you check out if you want to experience some of the outdoors available, go up to Garden Valley. There's a really small downtown Crouch. The river runs right through it. It is just about an hour away from Eagle. And then as you continue up Highway 55, you're gonna find Cascade, you're gonna find Donnelly, McCall, and there are gonna be so many outdoor hikes, campgrounds, so much stuff to do all along the way. But there you have it. Those are some of my biggest pros and cons about living here in Eagle, Idaho. If you have any thoughts about where these land on your own pros and cons list, or if you think there's something that I just completely missed, drop a comment down below. I would love to hear it. And if you have any questions at all about living here in Eagle or any of the stuff that I talked about, all of my information is down below. Go ahead and reach out. I would love to chat. But until then, watch one of these videos that's popping up, and I'll see you all on the next one.